welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming the reader problems tag, and I was tagged by Alex at Frank Fiction, and I will go ahead and I will link her channel down below. Definitely go check out her video and her other videos as well, because she makes a lot of interesting ones. So let's jump on in. It's 11 prompts. So the first one, I'm looking over at my phone. So the first one is, you have 20,000 books on your TBR. How in the world do you decide what to read next? Isn't this every reader's problem? That is the problem I'm currently having. So how I typically decide what I'm going to read next is I will scroll, which is doom scrolling, on either like a Bookstagram or on YouTube. I'll watch some of my favorite booktubers and I'll kind of see what they've been reading. If I have like future videos planned that like I want to work on, I will also pick up, books for those videos. But I am such a mood reader. It's so hard for me to pick a book like in advance. So typically I just kind of look at my bookshelves, try to feel what I'm in the mood for, and hope inspiration strikes. But usually if I scroll through Instagram, that's a good way for me to kind of look at other people's reels and get me interested in one book or another. Again, people's booktube videos is also a really good way for me to kind of figure out what book I'm going to read next. So next up, you are halfway through a book and not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? I am a quitter. I 100% will DNF a book. I literally just had this happen to me. I was 53% actually through a book and I DNF'd it. There are way too many books out there that I like want to read, that I am enjoying, that I could be enjoying, to not DNF a book. Like, I'm not going to make myself miserable to finish a book. I just don't rate them. I'll put them in my wrap-ups and say that I DNF'd it, but I won't like give it a star rating. I won't include it on my Goodreads, nothing like that. But yeah, I am a firm believer in DNFing. I never was. That is a new thing. I used to make myself suffer. And I think that was when I got really into like reading slumps, is when I would like make myself suffer through a book. So I am 100% a quitter when it comes to books if I am not loving them. The end of the year is coming and you're so close but so far away on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try to catch up, and how? So right now I'm actually ahead on my Goodreads goal, but if I was behind, it's already October, the middle of October. So if I was behind, depending on how far, I would definitely try to catch up. I would try to read as much as possible. But again, I don't want to put myself into a reading slump by like reading too much. So honestly, probably not. I would probably just keep reading at the same pace I'm reading. Reading is just for fun. Would I be a little disappointed in myself that I didn't make it? Probably. But there's been plenty of years where I haven't made my TBR or my Goodreads goal, and I mean, it is what it is. I think this is like one of the first years where I've actually exceeded my goal, which, hey, that's good on me. But if I don't, I'm not going to try to make a big fuss about it, because reading for me is just a fun thing and I don't want to make it a chore to do it. So that's why, like I said, I just would probably just kind of let it go and try to read as much as I wanted to try and catch up, but I wouldn't hold it against myself if I did not catch up. Covers of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I would not. I just wouldn't buy them. I genuinely will not buy a book in a series if I know that it's like, for example, if there's like an indie published book and the series isn't complete and it was picked up by a traditional publisher, if I didn't already buy the books, I wouldn't buy them. I would wait till they were traditionally published, because I wouldn't want to have mismatched covers. Or I would then have to go ahead and buy all of the same cover later on to have them match. I don't think I own, the only one, I do have one where it's like this, is my ACOTAR series. I have the first 4 in the paperback, and then the 5th one I have in hardback, because it wasn't released in paperback when I bought it. So that is, I'm pretty sure, one of the only ones where my covers aren't matching, and it's okay. It doesn't bother me, but I think it's only because it's in a different POV, so I'm like, that's how I'm mentally coping with it. is that it's in the same series, but it's told from a different character's perspective. So it's like it's a whole different series, in my opinion. And that's how I'm coping with that. But I simply would just not buy books intentionally in different covers. Everyone and their mother loves a book you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? Um, I honestly don't really have anyone else in my life that like reads as much as I do. Um, so honestly, BookTube and Bookstagram, Goodread reviews. There have definitely been books that like are people's like 5, 6 star reads, and I genuinely did not like it, like at all. And I talked about it in a video about my feelings because I'm not here to hide how I'm feeling about books. This is my channel, and if I don't like a book, I'm not gonna lie and tell people that I do just because it's everyone else loves it. But I also am open to hearing and understanding why other people like a book. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna argue with somebody about a book. About it, I like it, they don't. They like it, I don't. Like, we all have different feelings and opinions, and there's no sense in arguing with someone about it because everyone genuinely has their own different feelings and everyone's feelings are valid. So I don't really talk to anybody about it. I'll read Goodread reviews with the same like star rating that I gave it, and generally those have the same feelings that I have, and then I'll be like, okay, and then I'll feel fine about it. But if like everyone loved it and like I hated it, and like, I don't know, I think that's just genuinely how I would cope with it. I don't think it would really, wouldn't talk to really anybody about it unless like it was a fellow book person or someone I know that read it. Sometimes I'll ask my stepmom or my mom or my aunt to like read a book so that I could talk with them about it and see if my feelings are valid. But they typically only read books that I highly recommend, so they're not usually reading books that I'm like rating badly because we all pretty much have the same book taste. So, but yeah, I would go to Goodreads, and that's who I would bond with over shared feelings. You're reading a book and about to start crying in public. How do you feel? So, I hate crying in public. Like, it's a no from me, dog. I will, if I know that I'm nearing the end of a book and I know that there has to be something coming, I will not read it in public. Simple as that. I will wait till I get home, and I am in the sanctity of my own home to cry. Or I'm in my car. Like, I'll read in my car and cry. That I don't really care. But yeah, there have definitely been some books where like I have had to like hold off reading and wait till I got home. Like, any book in the Zodiac Academy series, if I have like 100 pages left, I won't read it until I get home, or unless I'm by myself. I was the same thing when I was reading Harry Potter. When I was getting to like the last 100 pages in the latter half of the series, I genuinely would not read them out in public. Like, I would just wait till I got home. And I'm like that with most fantasy books now. Like, I won't read the last 100 pages out in public because something always happens in the last 100 pages of these books. So I typically will wait till I get home to finish reading books. But if something happens and I'm out in public, I will try to stifle my tears. But honestly, that usually ends up being worse because I'm like I'm sniveling, and it's like I'm a hot mess when I cry. But I will try to hold off in public if I can. I mean, I don't know these people. I don't really care all that much. It's a little embarrassing, but they can clearly see I'm reading a book, so they'll know I'm invested. And maybe I'll make them want to read the book, and maybe we'll bond over it. Who knows? So, but I will try to hold off if I can. A sequel of a book you loved just came out, but you've forgotten a lot of the prior novel. Will you reread the book, skip the sequel, try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, or cry in frustration? If I've forgotten a lot, I will reread. I am currently rereading Fourth Wing because Iron Flame's coming out. I am honestly about to pick up the Once Upon a Broken Heart series again and reread the first 2 books because that third book's coming out. I plan on rereading the second book in the Crescent City series before that comes out. So I never used to reread books, and I was like, why the heck not? Like, you obviously love them for a reason, so why not reread them? So I this year is like a newfound thing. Like I never used to reread books. Now I am, and I'm obsessed with rereading books. I'm literally rereading Goblet of Fire right now as well. So just putting that out there. But yeah, so I will just reread either the latest book in the series, or if it's like Once Upon a Broken Heart, where the first 2 books are pretty short, I'm rereading both of them just because I love the series. But yeah, I'm definitely a proponent of rereading. If I feel like I've forgotten like too much about it, or if I just really like the series. You do not want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people nope when they ask? So most people in my life know how important my books are to me. Like they know that if anything happens to my books, I will cry. So typically they just won't ask me. They will ask me for reviews, but they won't ask me. If they see that I have the book on my shelf, they may ask me, and I will just straight up tell them, if this book comes back to me damaged, or if I do not get this book back, you will be buying me another copy. If you're not okay with that, please feel free to buy your own copy. There are people that I have lent my books out to. My stepmom, I always get my books back in good condition. I'm not worried about books with her. And if anything were to happen to one of my books, and if my dad or her were to rereading them and something happened to them, because they do have a crazy dog, love him to death, but he's in that stage where he just eats everything. So if something were to happen to one of my books, I know that they would just repurchase it for me, because again, they know how much I love my books. So the only book I did not do this with, and that I probably won't let anyone borrow, are my special edition books. I'm fine with people borrowing pretty much any book that you can get at the library, at the bookstore currently, like I'm fine with. But if it's a special edition, I will not lend it out to anybody. No matter how much I trust the person, it will not leave my sight. Like it will not leave my house unless it's in my hands. Perfect example is Fourth Wing. So my dad actually wanted to read it and wanted to borrow my copy. And I told him no, because I have the first run edition with the sprayed edges. And I straight up told him, I said, if anything happens to this book, I will be very upset. I said, this book to me is like how cars are to you. And so he went out and bought his own copy, because he knows how I feel about books. So shout out to you, Dad, for being the real MVP and knowing how I feel about my books. But I'm just very honest with the people in my life, honestly. I won't lend them out. If I feel like I'll get them back in bad condition, if I feel like I won't get them back. I have lent books out to people and not gotten them back, and I just won't lend books out to those people anymore. But there's people that I've lent books out to. They'll check in with me. Like, my sister-in-law, she has a couple of my books, and she'll tell me, hey, like, I can bring them back to you if you want. And I'm like, nope, it's all good. You're fine. Like, not worried about it. Because again, I know she'll take care of my books, so no worries there. But yeah, if I don't want someone to borrow my books, I'm just very honest with them about it. So, all right, we are down to the last 3 questions. So number 9, you've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? It kind of depends, because if it's just because I'm not in that genre mood, then I will just pick up a different genre. I am a big proponent of, if I'm in a reading slump, I will do something else. If I had this happen where I genuinely just could not pick up a book. Like, I was picking up books, but not enjoying them, putting them down. I just did something. I watched movies instead for a couple of days. I watched TV. Kind of just stopped reading for a couple of days and did something else. Hung out with family, just kind of got out of that headspace. Just because I don't want to put myself in a reading slump. So if I start to feel one coming on, then I kind of back up and okay, let me go do something else for a little while. And that usually works fine. Something else that I do is, if there's a specific type of book that I want to read, I will go on Bookstagram, and a lot of times the aesthetic videos on there will put me in the mood to read certain books, and it works. So sometimes I'll do that, but usually I'll just go do something else. Like I said, I'll go watch a movie, I'll go read, not me always thinking about reading. I'll go watch a movie, I'll go watch TV, I'll go hang out with my husband, I'll go hang out with my aunt, hang out with some friends, just do something different. So many new books are coming out, but you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? I'm kind of going through this now because there's so many books coming out between October and January that like I want to buy. It's kind of on like a mini book buying ban. Just because we're saving for vacation and things like that. So I utilize my library a lot. Like if I know books are coming out, I request them as soon as my library shows that they have it. So I currently have Swordcatcher by Cassie Clare. I have that on hold. And when the library gets it, I'm one of the first couple of people to get it. And then the same thing with the new Stephanie Garber book, the third book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. But that being said, I am an impulse buyer. So will I just go out and buy them? Maybe. I'm trying to hold off on buying the Once Upon a Broken Heart series because I want to buy the Fairy Loot editions, and Fairy Loot is doing a re-release. So I don't want to buy the books twice. So that's why I'm trying to utilize the library. So that's my plan. If anything, I might just buy it on my Kindle and read it on there. I might borrow it from someone, like, because my stepmom's also reading the series. So if she goes and she buys the third book, I'll borrow it from her because me and her like swap books a lot. But typically I just go out and buy the book. I mean, it sucks, but it is what it is. My husband knows I like to read. So if it's like a book that I've been planning on reading or I'm anticipating, I will just buy it. All right, so this is the last question. After you've bought the new books, you can't wait to get them. How long do they sit on your shelves before you actually read them? Well, if you watched my physical TBR video, you know that I have like 100 books on my physical TBR that I have been anticipating and so excited about, and then they sit there. So that is a good question. Like if it's the third book in a series or the second book in a series, typically it doesn't sit on my TBR for too long. I will typically read it when I get it. Like the third book in the Knock 'Em Out series, it came in the mail and it came in on my Audible hold and I literally read it that day. What else? I mean, I don't know. As soon as Iron Flame comes in, I'm reading that. It just kind of depends, like if it's how much I'm anticipating reading it. Like I think right now I'm literally only buying books that I am heavily anticipating and that I'm like waiting for drop day to buy. So those books I'm reading pretty much as soon as I get them. Like, but when I'm out and I'm just like buying books because I see them at Barnes and Noble, those are kind of the books that have been sitting on my shelf. So typically if it's a book that like I really want to read, it doesn't sit on my shelf for very long unread. It's just the kind of spontaneous books that I buy when I'm out that tend to sit on my bookshelf a little bit longer. Like, oh yeah, I could want to read that. So then I'll buy it and then it'll sit on my shelf until I'm in the mood to read it. So that's generally how that works. But if I'm heavily anticipating it, I will full on just read it when I get it. So that is the end of the reader problems tag. This is my first tag video, so I'm very excited. I hope you all enjoyed. Please feel free to answer some of the questions down in the comments below. I'm going to put the prompts in the description box, and I'd definitely be interested to hear everyone else's answers to these questions. I will also tag a couple of creators down below, so please feel free to also check their channels out. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, night, wherever you are, and I will catch you guys all in my next video.